showcasing local talent, professionals, and everyday people making Salt Lake City what it is today. It's time for another episode of the I Am Salt Lake podcast.
It's Halloween weekend.
It is. Tomorrow's Halloween.
While we're recording
For adults, this is Halloween.
Depending on, when you're listening to this episode right now, we get a lot of people that get really excited for the podcast and they download it like within the first 24 hours. It gets me really excited to see, the excitement of people when a new episode of I Am Salt Lake drops.
It makes it more fun to create.
Yeah, you're like, I got to get this out because people are expecting it. People want to listen. People want to hear what we have to say. But like Chrissy said, it's Halloween weekend.
Yeah.
We actually got to celebrate Cat Martin's birthday.
Yeah, happy 33rd.
Happy birthday, Cat.
That was way fun.
We had a great time there. Tell everybody what you dressed up as, Chrissy.
Well, I was Zool. I was actually not Zool, but I was Dana as Zool.
Did a lot of people recognize you, recognize the costume?
Nobody. I had to tell everybody who I was. The second I said it, they were like, oh, yeah, duh, you look exactly like her. But a lot of people thought I was a Greek goddess.
I think I would have had to, you tell me as well.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of outdated.
I've watched Ghostbusters. Mm-hmm. We've seen Ghostbusters, but that isn't a character I think most people know.
It's true, but do you think if I had been Gozer, people would have recognized it? Even though Gozer's only in a few minutes, maybe.
Well, see, again, Gozer, I wouldn't have remembered. Maybe I'm not a nerd like a lot of people are with a lot of that.
You're like the most non-nerdy of people, which is totally cool.
Well, speaking of non-nerdy, so I'm trying to get a Halloween costume. Uh-huh. I'm trying to be prepared because usually I'm that type of person. I wait until the day I need a costume. I run around frantic. I said, oh my goodness, what can I be for Halloween? Yeah. This year I figured I need to be a little more prepared.
Yeah.
And so we went to the Halloween store and you were like, Chris, what are you into? And it makes me sound like I'm such a boring person.
I totally did. We were walking around the store and I was like, well, what do you like? What are you into? And you're like, I don't really, there's nothing I'm into.
Well, it's like unless you want to, I'm a podcaster or something like that. I'll put a microphone in my hand. So we're looking around and there are so many great costumes at the costume store, gorillas and stuff like that, which I could have been, but I can't bring myself to spend $80 on a costume.
Yeah.
So I find a beer pint, a glass of beer, great costume. I thought, this is great. It's in my price range.
And it was the last one. You kind of...
so I tried it on and there's other people came up and they, oh my gosh, you got the last one. So at that moment, okay, I'm going to buy it.
People were waiting for you to put it back.
Just to give people the satisfaction, you're not going to get this. I bought it now. Even though
that's not spiteful at all.
I probably would have put it back up there, walked around the store a little bit more and said, okay, I'm going to break down and buy the beer.
And that's what the other people did. They missed out, man. They missed out.
If you follow either one of us on social media, you'll get a chance to see our costumes.
Right.
We had fun. It's been a great Halloween Halloween weekend.
Yeah, now I'm ready for real life again.
We've watched some scary movies. We rewatched Ghostbusters with your kids. You introduced them to that.
Yeah, that was rough. They kept saying it was going to be too scary, but you know what? It wasn't.
How is Ghostbusters a scary? I guess some of those scenes are kind of scary.
Get this. My daughter, though, who is 12, wouldn't watch Ghostbusters with us because she said it was too scary. Guess what she sat in the other room and watched instead?
What?
Stranger Things. Because that's not scary.
Which I still haven't seen yet.
It's amazing.
Anyway, let's welcome everybody out today to episode 249.
Welcome.
Of I Am Salt Lake podcast. My name's Chris Hollifield.
And I'm Chrissy Shelley.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us week after week. Like we said, brand new episode, brand new conversations.
Yes.
Today on the podcast, we sit down with John-Ross Boyce and Drew Danburry. We talk about a release they both did. It's 100 fake jingles of real brands.
Which is so brilliant.
Amazing. Links are on the website to check it out. We find out how the two of them met. We even talk about Drew's barber shop. which was a great conversation.
It was. Can I tell you the funniest thing about this interview, though?
Sure.
The best part of it for me, the second we sit down, we're getting ready, and Drew pulls out this huge white box
of magic cards, which is in the it's in the recording.
Did we talk about it in the recording? And he starts sorting magic cards, takes up a third of the table, and sorts all of his magic cards during the recording. It was so awesome.
I've never met Drew until we brought him on the podcast. I had John-Ross on the podcast when he was doing the Troubles, which you can go back and listen to that episode. I believe it was episode 9. I should have checked 100% before we started recording it. I'll probably even add the link on the show notes. So John and I, we got to, JR, like he likes to refer to himself. In this podcast, we caught up a little bit, so it was nice to have him back on the podcast. But Drew's a great guy.
Oh, Drew's so cool. They were both so much fun to talk to.
Such a great conversation with the both of them. They brought so much energy to the podcast, and we're going to play that here. Ryan, our Patreon supporter, joins us as well on this one. You can find out more on how you can come into the podcast recordings. We want to bring you into our office.
We want you to ask a couple of questions too.
And hang out with us. We're not going to get into that. We'll talk more about Patreon after the interview, but it's a lot of fun when we have Ryan here.
It is.
For the podcast.
It's a spin. It's a different spin on the conversation.
And hopefully you're all enjoying it as well. But let's give some love to our sponsors before we jump into the interview.
Oleo Skin and Beard.
Gosh, they make my beard beautiful.
They really do. Someone else said you had a sparkly beard the other day.
And it's all because of the Oleo products. And I was like,
I know. I say that all the time.
I love all their beard oils.
I love the smell of all their beard oils.
And I've actually recently even been using the skin oils because my skin's getting real dry this time of year, with the winter.
Yeah.
Oleoskin.com is their website. Find out more about them, their products, where they're going to be. I know they're doing some different markets here during the winter.
Yeah.
We've talked about it on the episode up before this. There's a winter market they're doing on Wednesdays. Make sure to connect with us on social media. We'll tell you more about those.
If you get a chance to meet them in person, go to an actual market. They're super cool people.
And tell Derek and Jennifer, say, hey, I heard about you both on I Am Salt Lake podcast.
And now we're all friends.
Because that way they know we're doing our job and telling you about them. But what are we drinking here today, Chrissy?
We are drinking Distillery 36.
Oh, my.
White rum.
Gosh, Brigham rum. Another sponsor of the podcast.
So good.
Love this stuff. It is.
That's why our hangover isn't that bad today. Stuff good on you.
Thank you so much for creating such an epic, wonderful rum
that you can drink with anything.
Distilled here locally. Distillery36.com is their website. Mm-hmm. You can really pick it up at any of the local state liquor stores.
I've seen it everywhere.
Pick up a bottle, try it out. It is worth every penny.
You'll never go back.
To
vodka.
And I know a lot of the local bars are starting to pick up their products as well. But give them some love as well. Distillery 36. Thank you so much, Distillery 36 and Oleo for believing in our little
project,
in our little podcast here in Salt Lake City. But we're going to talk some more. We got some more stuff to talk about after the interview.
So much more stuff.
With Drew and John. We got to visit Laziz this week.
Yes.
There's a live show coming up, Chrissy, on November 5th that we're going to talk about. We have some new Patreon supporters. We're going to talk about all that.
We're busy. We're busy bees.
After the interview. But so with that being said, let's jump into that conversation with John-Ross Boyce and Drew Danburry. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Do you have any questions for either of us before we get chatting? You're pretty familiar with the show. I mean, we go back and add an intro to it.
Totally.
So it'll seem like a rough start.
I'm down with that. My only question is, how have you been, man? It's been a minute.
Okay, well, I mean, we're recording.
Perfect.
Let's catch up even.
Okay,
a little bit,
all right, sounds good.
I mean, I know we've been sitting for a minute. Drew's over here playing Magic.
Well, I'm just organizing my cards.
So he's not technically playing Magic right now?
That's true.
He's sorting his huge deck.
Well, it's not even a deck. I just got a bunch of cards on KSL and for really cheap, and I'm trying to organize them to build them into decks. So then I can play Magic.
I got kind of excited when you pulled him out.
Good.
when you
I know, lots of innuendos tonight.
I know.
I get it.
Well, no. So so the last time JR was on the podcast, episode 9.
Oh gosh, was it episode 9?
This was about 4 years ago. It was at Totems.
It was at Totems,
and it was a much different setup than what we're working with today.
It was kind of like doing a podcast in the Overlook Hotel from The Shining. It was just like this big empty warehouse of a room with all of this unnecessary like
Dead bodies.
Well, a lot of dead bodies, a lot of elevators full of blood, and a lot of like, this is what I had the feeling that the whole decor was like, this is what white people think like a Native American lodge is supposed to look like, kind of a thing at Totems.
But the interview was a lot of fun. And, the crazy thing about it is I had a microphone, but it ended up being recorded through the microphone on my computer. I don't know if you remember that.
That's right.
I was so bummed out. I was like, oh, sorry, guys, and I was still learning podcasting.
We were just happy to be
Oh, my
playing
gosh,
along.
it was so much fun. But for people that are listening to catch up a little bit, so we have JR. Is that what John Ross?
JR, John Ross. I usually sign all of my legal documents and paychecks as John-Ross Boyce. But but JR if you're nasty,
And then Drew Danburry.
Yes.
We're going to have a good conversation.
we are.
You're kind of quiet over there, Chrissy.
Oh, well, there's so much entertainment going on. I'm just enjoying the show.
I've been just as quiet as Chrissy has.
Yeah.
It's mostly been chatty Cathy over here.
But other than that, it's been good. I mean, it's been 4 years, like I said, since you've been on the podcast.
Yeah.
And it's come a long ways.
It has come a long way.
We're close to 250 episodes.
And it keeps getting better every one that I listen to.
Well, I appreciate you listening to the show. We're going to get into, you did an album of 100 fake jingles of real bands. Is that how you would describe
real fake jingles for real products?
Okay.
Yeah.
Or brands is what I put. Gosh, it's been a long day. We're going to get into that here in just a little bit, but I want to kind of even find out how the two of you met. I'm sure you have a little bit of an interesting story there.
Fucking Brigham Young University, the Lord's University, is where I first laid eyes on this tall drink of water here named Drew Danburry.
Is that why you both have fabulous beards now? You're rebelling still?
Possibly, yeah. Just trying to get in all of that lost beard time.
You got to do that.
I had a beard actually for most of BYU because I was in the English department.
I did as well.
And
wait, why the English department?
Because you don't have to go to the testing center as much, and because the English department has a lot of the professors in the English department, I feel like, or at the time when I was there, were people that like, they were there because they were tenured and they were getting a good paycheck and they used to be LDS, but they don't care anymore. They don't care anymore. And they secretly, they go to church as often as like it's required to be a professor at that university. And so like it was an interesting experience to be sure. And so like I basically just went bearded almost the entire time, except there was one professor that turned me in for not shaving. When the honor code office at BYU calls you, they don't call you. And when they call you, they just tell you, we need you to come in, and they don't tell you what it's about. And at the time I was kind of consciously or maybe unconsciously like it. Looking back, I think I was actively trying to get kicked out of BYU. I was stealing textbooks and my lunch, and I was me and John Kovalenko, who's a very talented violin player, kept a weird little secret stash of weed in a loose brick in the alumni building, and go behind a bush on campus and smoke out of an apple, and then like stumble off to class, and like I had a bunch of like books that I had like lifted from the bookstore and everything. And so like when they called me and told me like, you're going to have to come into the honor code office and talk to us about some serious shit, I'm just like, oh, it could be anything.
Yeah.
It could be like, I don't know what it is. And so I'm just like preparing for every defense possible. And I come in and they're like, your Italian literature professor tells us that you've been coming in with a 5 o'clock shadow. You haven't been shaving. And I was so relieved that I almost tipped my hand. I was like, oh, fuck, thank God. I thought it was all about like the cigarettes and the weed on campus and everything. Like I thought it was all about all the stolen textbooks and whatnot. Like I had to catch myself from like being too grateful.
Like,
so did you graduate from BYU?
No.
I was going to say that would be a miracle.
No.
That would be a miracle.
No,
you could teach classes on how to graduate.
That would be a miracle on the level of the loaves and fishes, but I couldn't. I finally dropped out and went to UVU.
A much easier, but it was what UVCC probably. Back
UVSC.
then.
It was barely UVU when I went over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're a youngin'.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Drew? Did you graduate from BYU then?
I did indeed. I had dropped out to tour and play music, and then my parents were kind of freaking out, and they're like, "You can't drop out of school. You gotta go. You gotta graduate." And I was like, I'll look into it. So I went back, and I was like, if I came back to school, like how soon could I graduate? And I think I had a really awesome guidance counselor who basically said, well, if you just change this focus, then you can graduate in a semester. And I was like, done. So I just like went back for a semester, graduated, and I got out quick. But I also had a beard a lot.
Yeah.
Because in the film program as well as the English program, you're taking a lot of your tests in class.
It's so sad that Utah has a stigma on beards.
Yeah.
Like it's a bad thing, right? Like it's
weird.
It's almost like you might as well be doing a drug
Yeah.
Yeah.
if you have a beard.
Yeah.
It is
The
very
easiest drug in the world. Just don't shave.
yeah.
And now I'm just tore up.
Then you'll
on
really be
beard,
high on life.
I'm tore up on chin fuzz every day. I didn't have to go meet with a stinky dealer or anything like that. I just came naturally.
I think it's definitely an anachronism, and I own a barbershop in downtown Provo, so we talk about it all the time. But it's just they're just making themselves look silly.
So
Yeah.
with you having a barbershop, which I wanted to get into, I mean, this is a perfect segue for that is, do you get a lot of guys? I mean, is there a lot of guys down there growing beards?
I mean, obviously, if they're in attendance at BYU, they're shaving for the most part. But yeah, beards are pretty prevalent. I mean,
Do you do a lot of beard trims?
Yeah,
yes, we do a lot of beard trims, but we also all have beards in the barbershop, and people are always asking us if there's like a requirement to have a beard, which annoys me every time, but whatever.
How long have you been doing the barbershop thing?
5.5 years now.
And what's the address? Give the address for
55 North University Avenue. It's in downtown Provo on University and Center. It's Suite 145 in the Provo Town Square, 55 North University Avenue.
Yeah. Because, I mean, believe it or not, we have some Utah County listeners. I know JR listens to the podcast down there.
Yeah, we curse a lot. We say what we want. And it's a very, very safe place for having unpopular opinions, or at least debating whatever it is you want to say.
Sure.
We're really open about stuff like that. We upset a lot of people and offend a lot of people, and we feel like that's just great because some people need something like that in Utah Valley.
Yeah, if you're not getting challenged, you're not actually thinking about things.
Yeah.
So it's good for them.
Yeah.
Nice.
So do you have other barbers then in your shop?
Yeah. I started it, and then my brother-in-law, Jimmy Kelly, he's in the Statuettes with Michael Gross.
Oh, okay, great band.
Yeah, he cuts the hair there as well. He has for the last few years, and then we just added a third barber, David Catali, and hopefully in the next month or two we might all start a band together. We've been talking about it for months, but
will you be the barbershop quartet?
Yeah, that's not happening. But yes, I saw that coming.
I'm sure you've heard that, right? I mean, I'm sure.
What? I'm not the first person to make that joke.
No.
Oh man!
But I appreciate it very much. The
The look on
delivery,
your face says otherwise, but
the delivery was very, very well delivered. It was good.
So why barber school? I mean, if you don't mind me asking, I mean, here,
Yeah.
What made that whole thing happen? I mean, you go to BYU, you graduate. What did you graduate with? Film.
Film.
then
So
you
I'm doing a
decided-
lot of film on the side as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a lot of hands and a lot of pots. Yeah, basically, I did film for like a few years, and I decided I didn't really like it. I was frustrated with a few experiences I had on some very subpar. I had a few bad experiences. I won't even rate.
But you decided cutting hair would be something.
Well, I did music for about 6 years, 5 or 6 years, and I dropped out of school because I was working on a lot of feature films and in school working on things, and I decided, you know what, I like music. I can go on a tour by myself, do all the work by myself. I don't need to depend on a cast or crew or other people. I can just do all of it by myself. And you could probably do the same with film, but it's just a lot more difficult. Anyways, I did music for like 5 or 6 years to the point where was really burnt out. Couldn't make ends meet. I was, working 3 jobs when I'd get home and just like in a lot of debt. And I just didn't want to have to stress about money as much. And my father-in-law suggested I should be a barber. He said, these are your strengths as a person. You should be a barber. And I said, okay, I don't have any better ideas. I'm just going to go do that. So
where'd you go to barber school at?
I went to the barber school in Midvale, Utah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was all just a whim.
Personality-based profession. You're like, you've the personality for this, go do it?
I think from his perspective, yeah, like this, you'll be good at this. You'll do great. There's a lot of other factors that played into the success of the barbershop that I don't think anybody foresaw. Just like any successful business, I think that there's like the right time, the right place.
Yeah.
A lot of like other factors. Like I had already built up a big social network. I opened it at a time when social media was still somewhat valid in terms of like promoting a business.
Right.
I was the first barbershop in Provo from a new generation of younger people. So there's a lot of reasons why it worked, and I was really lucky, and it's a great job, and it's really awesome. And yeah, but it essentially, whenever people ask me like why barbering, it was just a whim.
Sure. But you love it now.
Yeah, well, when I was in school, it was the kind of thing like, yeah, I like this. I promised my wife I would do it for 10 years, and after 10 years, if I didn't want to do it anymore, I wanted a free pass to do whatever else. And she said, sure. And I said, sweet, I can dedicate myself to this for 10 years, knowing that I have an out if I need it, if that makes sense. Because for me, it wasn't even about like the barbering or the music or anything so much as like, I know myself as a person, like I can get sick of things and I might need to escape in some fashion. I don't want to sign myself up and feel stuck later and just hate life.
Sure.
So
that's good to know that. A lot of people don't know that about themselves.
Yeah.
So instead, you guys started doing some music together.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
So Drew was cutting my hair actually.
Yeah.
Right when the barbershop opened up, and I was living with Randy Cordner at the time from Temples, great musician, great producer, and we were talking a lot about how we wanted to make a record that was going to be like a big band era, like a Rat Pack era record, like a Frank Sinatra in the wee small hours kind of vibe, but have it all be about like fast food places, and we just like be drunk in our shitty house, just like this town is a Burger King kind of town. And like, we just thought it was the funniest thing in the world. And so like a little while into that, I was getting my haircut at Drew's, and he was like, what have you been up to lately? And I was just like, oh, Randy and I are talking about like doing this like stupid fucking Taco Bell Rat Pack album. And then like we kind of joked around about it a little bit, and then like, and that was it. And then like one day I get a message on Facebook from Drew, and he's just like, so I want to do like what you were talking about, but I want to make it like a jingles record, and I just want to do like a bunch of jingles. And I really liked that idea a lot because, you know, it's these products that like I don't care about. They're just things that I consume, you know, like I don't have a vested in it, you know, like you're writing your own music, or like your important music or your real music, and you have like these expectations as to like what you want it to mean, and you have these expectations sometimes. Hopefully you get out of it.
Like you have more of an emotional attachment to the music?
Yeah, exactly. You have more of an emotional attachment. You have an emotional attachment to an idea about how it's going to be received, and how it's going to, you know, how it's going to feel when you're finished with it and you're performing it, and how it's going to feel when like an audience reacts to it. And this was such an attractive idea because like, who gives a fuck about commercials? Because they're everywhere. And they're meaningless, you know, they just kind of like dominate our landscape, you know, like this was like the equivalent of like doing like landscape paintings.
Well, they control our subconscious though, because we constantly remember these things.
Well, that's the other side of it, is that like for these things that are just kind of like throwaways almost, like they're literally just meant to like get people to buying products, you know, and they're just kind of these dumb things. And now we have the pleasure of being able to just like skip ad, like click that skip ad button or whatever and not deal with it. But there was a time when like, when
Juicy Fruit was going to move you?
Yeah, when you felt like chicken tonight.
Yes, exactly.
So did either of you play music together prior? Because I know, like, with the Provo music scene, I'm sure there's a lot of, like, Salt Lake music scene. Are you playing each other's bands and
Was
stuff?
Blood Eagle before this or after this?
I think Blood Eagle was concurrent with it. So, like...
Well, can I tell my version, and then we can kind of segue back into where we were at? So when I was on tour with the Robot Ate Me, also known as Ryland Bouchard, probably in 2005, I think we had come up with the idea of doing an anti-corporate jingles album, and we had written down a list of all the different song ideas we had. And so I had like this paper from like 10 years before, like 12 years before.
So you were like prepped. And primed.
Yeah, it had been like a project that had been on the sidelines for like a decade, and I hit up my friend Ryland like, "Hey, do you still want to do this? Like, I have time. We should do this. We talked about doing this," and he just never got back to me. He's kind of moved on into other areas, or he doesn't respond as well, whatever you want to call it.
He's like an adult or whatever.
Yeah. And so JR had mentioned it to me, and I was like, "Oh well, I really want to do a project with someone else. I don't want it to just be me doing music by myself, which is a very common thing in my life." And so I hit him up, and had you moved in after? You moved in after, right?
I moved in after. Yeah. I moved in after.
So I lived
in Drew's basement for like 6 months.
Yeah.
It was a fabulous time.
It was awesome. It was great.
I could imagine.
Yeah, it was fun. But basically, because he was there, it was like a lot easier for us to just crank it out.
Oh yeah.
And for me, I had already prepped a lot of songs. I had a bunch of like instrumental versions of a lot of different things. And so, we just...
I have a question. When you say anti-corporation, like what exactly does that mean?
I guess okay. Like
the songs took like kind of you could kind of divide the songs into one of two formats, which I think is also really interesting because I think it kind of reflects, just kind of the writing styles in general. Because Drew did the lion's share of the music. I think I helped out. I think I did guitar stuff on Red Bull and on the Old Spice one. And like some of the stuff that's like way like punkier or like dronier or whatever, like and the Taco Bell one was but like it was mostly Drew doing the music, but the lyrics we kind of decided to, at first we wanted to do like a nice version, like something that could be like an actual real jingle
that we could sell,
that we could maybe sell for some money, and then like a fake one, and I believe originally the idea was kind of to like sort of play off of like sort of what like our personas are or were. Like Drew is like, we were talking about this in the car ride up, Drew's like just like the nicest guy in the world, he's just like the Drew Danburry persona is like happy and positive and we can do it, and I'm just very much like fuck everything except perhaps weed, and so like we kind of wanted to play off of that, like do like a nice one and kind of a not so nice one. But what they really ended up kind of being is a lot of Drew's would be like stuff that is actually messed up about like the corporation. So like Drew's version of the Dairy Queen jingle like starts off like, "Our owner sodomized a teenage girl," which he did. That's a fact.
I just spent a ton of time researching like all the horrible things that these corporations did. The only corporations that you can't find any trash on are like the best corporations, which are beer companies.
Yeah, they rule. And I spent a lot of time...
Makes sense.
I spent a lot of time like writing these like Raymond Carver, David Bazan kind of like sad stories that were like centered around a product or had a product in the background. So like the Oreos one, we did a video for, it was Nabisco. We did a video for the Nabisco one, and the Nabisco song go, "Everything's just like this cookie, simple black and white. Hey buddy, that's my wife. You're doing the twist with my goddamn wife." And so like it's more about like this sad sack that like wants to go into the kitchen and get more Oreos, but his like wife is busy like dancing with this other dude in his kitchen and whatnot, and it really has nothing to do with Nabisco other than like these products are all around us.
Foods.
Oh. Yeah, they're just like all around us, and so it was more about like, or the Anheuser-Busch one. I forget what specifically the Anheuser-Busch one was on your end. I remember what mine was, because mine was about like how like this dude like Anheuser-Busch is made from like this really cold, pure water from the Rockies. And like this dude is living in a town whose water has had like a Flint, Michigan situation happen. And he's sitting there like, my boy's just barely smart enough to know that he is slow. Thank God for. And like his boy got a birth defect from their shitty water. And he's just like sucking down Anheuser-Busch because he can't handle the fact that like his son is retarded due to circumstances beyond his genetics or control.
So they're like real commercials.
They're like real commercials.
Yeah.
Are you afraid these companies will come after you at all?
Yeah, you can't get blood out of a turnip. I don't know. What are they going to do? Make the 5 people that bought these tapes stop listening to them?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I always worry about that stuff, I guess.
You know what? If Google or Steve Jobs or Goldman Sachs or whoever
I
wants
don't think
to
you have to
throw
worry about Steve Jobs
Yeah, he's
anymore.
dead, right?
Or whoever,
Yeah.
if Steve Jobs' ghost wants to throw me in free speech jail for talking shit about his corporation in song form or whatever, then fine. That's 3 hots in a cot every day.
I guess
get
the
to
music
watch
isn't
TV and listen.
copyrighted,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, the music's your original music. So
Yeah.
It's not like you're stealing.
But I mean, like there is a history of that. Like the reason why the Kinks song Lola is, like tastes like cherry cola is the original lyrics were Coca-Cola. Like I met her in a club down in Old Soho where they drink champagne and it tastes just like cherry cola. It was originally Coca-Cola, but like the Coca-Cola people were like, nuts to you, Ray Davies. You can't be you can't be invoking the sacred name of Coca-Cola in your song about a transvestite.
It's like defamation of name or whatever.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. But I think also, like, I honestly think that, the face of advertising and the face of, like, how corporations interact with people now has changed so much. And, like, that's, like, in part because of social media and because of the internet. And I think they realize that they can't control all of the things that people say about them. And so if you're just reminding people that these products exist, they're probably happy about it.
One thing we were talking about on the car ride up, since we were talking about careers and where we're at with music as well, and this applies to what we're talking about, is we're both kind of at a point in our musical careers or lack thereof to know that no one cares what we're doing or is listening to us, so we can just do whatever we want. Plus,
it's the best.
That's the absolute best time.
It is
of any career.
It is great.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. We both love it. Like, we don't really have to like worry or concern ourselves with anything or anyone. We just make what we want to make, and it's fun. Sure. But also, if some company said, "Hey, you need a cease and desist. You got to take this down," I'm like, "Sure, whatever. I don't care." Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
JR's over here waiting for that day. Bring it on. Bring it on.
Yeah. For me, it's like,
it would just be so funny that like somebody would care.
You'd be surprised.
It would be kind of. It would actually be kind of nice. I'd get the cease and desist letter in the mail. Like, oh, they were listening
Somebody
this whole
loves
time.
me.
yeah.
So can people? I mean, you sent me a website. I mean that website's
It's on
visible to the public. They could buy it.
It's on Drew's Bandcamp.
Okay,
as well.
And then
so I can link it up
records,
with this episode. IamSaltLake.com. I'll have the link up there so people can buy it.
Yeah,
right?
cool.
I mean, they go out and buy it. I guess. And I mean,
Sure.
What was your? Did you have a long-term goal with this, or complete fun?
It was just kind of. I think like Drew was saying, it was just like a safe, free thing that we could do. Like it wasn't like tied to you have your dream projects, right? And they're just like, this is the thing that like, this is what I want them to remember me by, and you get like choked up, but like I kind of, halfway through writing some of these things, for me anyway, the experience was really eye-opening because it was just like, you know what, like this comes a lot easier, and some of this stuff is like way more like in terms of at least like the written lyric content, which is always what I'm concerned about the most. Like some of this stuff I'm actually really, really proud of. And to me, like, I would not be ashamed if like somebody remembered me for like, a weirdly dark nihilistic pseudo jingle that I wrote. But like, it came about that way because it was not, there was no pressure cooker from like within to like make this an important thing or anything like that. It was just like a fun time. I've always really admired Drew a lot, and I've always wanted to like do a project with him. And this was the project that we were going to do together, and it was just exciting to work on something with a really good friend and follow through on it, make a dumb idea, a stupid joke of an idea, manifest, and put it out. And like I was even just tickled pink that a label like Related Records wanted to put us out at all.
And where are they from? Are they from Provo or no? Where?
It's my friend Ryan. He's from Phoenix and he's now in LA.
Okay.
So I think he was moving like right in the process of us releasing this record. He was moving from Phoenix to LA. So I'm not really sure like how to answer that question.
So how did you sell it to him, or did he just know about it?
So last April, the Trunk Space in Phoenix, Arizona was like having a closing like, hey, we've been together for like, this is a venue that had been there for like 10 to 12 years, I think 12 years. And they're like, okay, it's our goodbye show. We want to fly in all the artists that we've had over the years that we love. And so they like flew me in, and Ryan was kind of taking care of that. And so we're just driving in the car and we're just talking, and we're talking about music, and he's telling me about his label, and I'm telling him about projects that I've been working on. And I just mentioned like, oh yeah, I got this jingles project. Do you want me to send it your way? And he was like, sure. And
it turns out he was not as enthused.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I guess I don't know if he just did that to be funny, because it's pretty funny on the back of the
on the back of the tape. It's basically just like when Drew told me that, asked me to like, listen to his album of 100 fake jingles for real products. I thought there's no way that anybody would want to listen to this at all.
Yeah.
That's a great recommendation.
Yeah.
I like it. Do you guys feel like it did something for you to do something that was purely creative, purely for fun, and actually like fulfill it, go all the way through with it? Did it change I don't want to say change your life, but did it change your life?
Okay, so I'm going to rewinding back again, like for the last 5-6 years now, like, and in 2010 I like put together an album called Goodnight Danny, and it was like whatever you'd want to call like my magnum opus, so to speak. It was like everything I had in my heart that I wanted to put into an album, and it came out the best it possibly could have come out. And ever since, I've kind of always been like a little bit leery of ever trying to release anything under the Drew Danburry name ever again, because I didn't think I could ever match that like level. And so I started doing projects under pseudonyms, like secret projects, so I could still make stuff, but I could release it and not have anybody feel like it was tied to me.
Like you wouldn't have to worry about being judged?
Yeah, like, so if I have like this whole Drew Danburry discography, if I release a punk album under the moniker of Bastian Salazar called the Apache or something, then, it's not associated with that thing. Or if I release a project called For All the Girls, which is a bunch of love songs for different girl names under the moniker of Damien Fairchild, then it's not related to the Drew Danburry world, so to speak. So I could just do whatever I wanted, and I was like, it was... The first time I did it was with the For All the Girls, or actually Bastian Salazar. Anyways, whatever. I did it, and it was like, wow, I can still have fun with music. Like I had hit this like spot where I was like, I can do whatever I want. No one cares. No one knows it's me, and that was really liberating. So this was a lot more of the same in that regard.
Okay.
But I also, in answer to the second part of your question, I have a real big problem with leaving things unfinished. I finish everything I do, and to the point where like a lot of times I don't even enjoy half of the things I finish. I'm just like, but I have to finish this.
You're like the anti-me.
Yeah, like
she starts like a million things, and nothing's
Nothing ever
finished.
gets finished.
No, you finish some things though.
Maybe like one or two.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a thing that a lot of like creative people do though. Like, cause like you're just always thinking about a different thing, or like somebody, kind of sparks this idea and you kind of run with it for a little while, but then like it becomes hard, or, things fall through, or you're not working with like the right people or whatever it is. And, and it just like, or something else comes along that seems more important or more expedient at the time.
Yeah.
And like,
Chris is over there laughing at me.
in a lot of the ways, even though like Drew has a much longer discography than I do personally, like I feel very much the same way about there's still things that like I know there are certain things that are like 5 years old that I'm probably never going to finish, but I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night and like a cold sweat, just like, I never did that stupid thing. Oh God, you're a failure, whatever. And for me, from my experience, in answer to your earlier question, it was really nice. Like it we kind of started this project, and I was still doing the Troubles, and we put out one record which I was really, really proud of, called Black Shuckled Crow.
Great album.
And we just had a lot of false starts on like making a second one for a lot of different reasons, lineup changes, and people getting older, and just like kind of getting into their lives, a lot of different stuff, and it was a real crisis. And then when we kind of finally quietly like retired the band, it became like a real crisis for me, because there was a lot of stuff that I felt like was unfinished with that. And like, I was like, well, what does that say about working in general? Because I had made that kind of the centerpiece of like my artistic life, so to speak. And, on the one hand, like, yeah, it's kind of it's a really weird record and a very big jump to go from like making like this kind of like my attempt at some kind of whiskey soaked Americana songs of innocence and experience, to doing a bunch of like cheeky, fake jingles for real products. But it was important to me because we finished it, because it was something that was finished. And like we should have brought a copy today, but in addition to doing a lot of music and lyrics and whatnot, Ryan and Drew approached me to do a lot of the artwork for the lyric book. And so there's a zine basically that comes with the cassette tape of about 25 drawings of mine. And it was a really invigorating and emboldening experience to have, to like really follow through with something after like so many years of like, okay, well, we started this recording and then we got skittish about it and like it didn't happen, or, we started this thing and then just like life got in the way or whatever. And it was just a really positive experience to set out to complete something, even something that on the surface level is flippant, maybe in comparison to like serious, quote unquote. Nobody can see my damn air quotes, so I don't know why I'm doing them, but like serious art. And it actually, I mean, like as recently as it came out, it's affected the rest of my work, because I've like it was like that cherry high of finishing something. Like I found that cherry high again, and like now, like it makes me. It made me want to like get back into doing a lot more work and finishing things and following through on stuff, and like, building, a portfolio, like not in the sense of like, oh, I'm going to try and sell my stuff, but building like an actual like body of work, and I think it was especially a good thing that it was a record of fake jingles, because also the experience, at least for me, kind of left me with, well, it doesn't always have to be like some monumental, Faustian, giant Wagnerian, emotional thing. It's just fun to make something and to put it out in the world. And, like we were saying earlier, nobody's listening. Nobody knows us. Nobody gives a shit, and
they're
like,
listening.
I mean, they're listening now, but in general though, like, nobody's watching,
you relax a little bit.
Yeah.
'Cause sometimes when I'm doing this podcast, I have to, okay, nobody's going to listen to it, even though there are people listening to it, but I have to remind myself, just have fun, Chris.
Nobody's going to fire us from doing the thing that we're doing for free because we love it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to lose my record deal because we made like a weird jingles record,
There's something fascinating about being at home and recording an album and putting it on the internet, because, and I don't really play shows. I play shows very rarely. I just did a little tour. I'm about to go for like a weekend out to the South, but I mean, outside of that, I haven't really toured for like 7 years. And so for the last 6-7 years, all I've been doing is just like recording at home and then putting it on the internet. And I don't have like any interaction. Like usually you write a song, you play it for a crowd, you can kind of feel whether or not they like it or not. I have no clue.
Do you like that interaction? Do you like playing? Why aren't you touring? Why aren't you playing out? What is the reason behind that?
Oh man, we were talking about that in the car.
Yeah,
and
a big loaded question.
I'm gonna drop it. I'm gonna drop the answer.
Do it, man.
Playing live shows for me, I with this last tour, it was pretty rough, and I kind of came to a conclusion that playing live shows for me is like going to a Mormon church and bearing my testimony, a fake testimony, and then having people come up to me and tell me how great that testimony was.
Drew, your testimony inspired me so much.
Yeah. So it's a lot of it is like when I was young, music was like super important to me and it changed my life. And these bands that I listened to like affected me in specific ways. And as I've gotten older and like learned different things or like picked up different things, I kind of just realized I can write a song and somebody's going to like take a completely different idea from that song that I put into it.
Sure.
So whatever I make, it really doesn't matter what I make because people are going to, I have no control over how it's perceived or how people like it or don't like it or whatever. So I for me, I'm just kind of like disinterested entirely as to whether or not people like it or not. I just want to make stuff because it's fun to be creative.
Sure.
I think there's also a certain like shelf life to any piece of work, even if it's something that's, huge or something that, kind of stands the, test of time, so to speak, where, you write this thing, you make this thing, you film it, you perform it, whatever it is. And for a while it has like this palpable magic to it, this cathartic energy to it, and you feel really, really great about like having expressed this deeply personal thing, and you again, like going back to that whole like cherry high analysis a little bit, you kind of, you play it over and over again because, you're playing it and you're loving it and an audience is responding to it positively. And so you're going to keep playing it, but eventually it kind of wears out its welcome. And, Drew's analogy of like the fake testimony really hit home for me when he was telling me that in the car. Cause like, how many times have I like had this experience where like, we're playing another show and I'm going to play this song that I've played what feels like a million times before. And, if it was a good enough show, if it was a good enough performance and somebody in the audience is going to buy me a beer afterwards, oh man, I really, really liked that song and it like spoke to me on this level or whatever. And I'm just going to be in the back of my head going like, that's nice that you get that out of that because like to me, this is just like a thing that I do now, in order to get somebody to buy me a beer at the bar.
So you don't get enjoyment out of people like inspiring people with your music?
You have no control over it.
You have no control over that. And so it should make no difference either way,
Interesting.
At the same time, like I don't, if I would get enjoyment out of it if that was the only song that I was ever going to write, or if this is the only thing that I was ever going to make, or the only drawing I was ever going to do, the only film that I was going to shoot, like then that would be one thing. If I was going to just like make one thing and like that was going to inspire people for the rest of my life, then that's fine. But like I'm doing stuff now, and in the same way that like you don't want to be judged by your baby pictures, or you don't want like you don't like go on Tinder and be like, oh man, this is like a photo of me like from 5 years and 20 pounds ago. Hey, who wants to get down?
Some people do that.
Some people do that, and they are liars.
Trust me.
I would say like all people do that.
Wait a minute, you don't look like this.
All people do that, yes. But like, from an artistic perspective, like you wouldn't want somebody to like, just go like, oh man, like it's nice that you're doing this little piddling thing now.
Sure.
But man, do you remember 5 years ago when you did this thing? And it's like, man, I don't even like that girl anymore. Or, I don't even have that drug problem anymore or whatever it is.
This is so interesting to me because it's very rare to meet people who love creating so much that they don't want to be judged on their past things. I mean, like a lot of people still thrive on the things they did 5 or 10 years ago. Remember when I did that thing? I was so great that one time.
That's for fucking boring Midwestern high school people. If I wanted to do that, I'd be if I wanted to be like that, then I'd just be like a dude that joined the football team in high school and I was really good at football and that was the last thing that I ever did. And I'm just like walking around in my hometown wearing my high school football jersey that's too small for me going, remember when I threw that pass and we won the big game?
Threw that football in the mountain.
And Stacey Manhauer let me finger her in the back of my Cadillac, or whatever. Like that was the peak of my life, man. Like I don't want to do that. I don't like that's not. I joke about this a lot with my friend Gabe, who is an up and coming musician in Provo. He's working on some really good stuff right now. But like we always joke, I'm on a spectrum. You can't pin me down. And like human beings want to be treated like that, and I don't think it's any different for an artist to want to be treated like that. And
sure.
Like people act like that's a big shock, especially with musicians.
Yeah,
so you're not playing the same thing that you were playing 5 years ago. What the fuck is up with that, man?
Like you're not allowed to grow as a human,
right?
Dare you?
And they do that more with musicians than anything else. Like if Martin Scorsese wants to make like a gangster movie and a historical epic, and then shoot like a movie with Jerry Lewis, then like that's his business, and everyone's just like, yeah, go Marty. All right, but like if somebody like you know, if somebody was in a folk band this year and then wants to do, you know, heavy metal the next year and then wants to make electronica music the year after, it's just like, well, like, I don't know, man. Like, why aren't you making this record that like I really liked a million times over? Like, because I already made it the one time.
Sure.
Go listen to it. It's in a format where you can enjoy it over and over again.
Yeah.
Like, fuck you for making me like want to just like repeat myself over and over again when like what I really want to do is like talk about what's going on with me now or what I'm observing now or what I'm feeling now.
So are you playing in a band now, JR?
I'm working on a couple of things.
Top secret?
No, nothing like that. So I am working on some solo stuff, and I'm going to start recording with Randy Cordner in the next couple of months on that when all the kind of bells and whistles are put together.
Randy, Randy's in
Temples.
Temples. I was going to say Temples.
Randy's
I wanted
in Temples.
you to say it first.
He produced Black Shuckled Crow. He's pretty much almost anything out of like Utah County that Drew or Steven Cope didn't record that's worth a damn was recorded by Randy, you know, in my opinion anyway. Like he does a lot more of like the heavier, harder core. So he did the Despite Despair record that everyone is crowing about right now. He did, I think Wearing Thin ended up re-recording it, but he basically did like the original recording for Wearing Thin that like got them, you know, got some attention from Tragic Hero. He's a really great producer, you know, and so like we're gonna work on something together, and it's just it's gonna be a bunch of like old heartbreak songs that like I probably should have recorded when I was in my 20s, and like now it's just kind of like, well, they should be recorded because like. Which totally contradicts everything that I just said, but that's just like more for me than anything else because like they were never recorded and they should see the light of day. You know
What is up? Chrissy and I were talking about this. We saw Book on Tapeworm.
Yeah,
I'm sure you've heard those guys. Obviously, they're from Provo. Yeah. We saw them play the other night.
Scott.
And we were talking about how incredible the Provo music scene is. I mean, I'm sure you've heard it. People say it all the time. I
swear it gets better and better.
Why is it so incredible down in Utah County? And when did it become, in my opinion?
Because we only have 3 bars, man.
Is that really what? I moved to Provo, 2016, 23 years ago. I lived there for a couple of years. It sucked. I hated it.
Yeah.
Was it because I didn't meet you yet? Was that the problem or what?
Like even like 10 years ago.
I mean, I kind of want to live in Provo these days.
Even 10 or 12 years ago when I moved there, it's like starkly different from how it is now. You know, we got a real chill mayor, you know, that like, you know, loves putting on rooftop concert series that are not on a rooftop anymore. With like the same 5 bands.
I always wanted to go down to one of those. I never made it down to any of the rooftop.
They're pretty good. They're pretty good. But like I think there's just like anywhere in Utah, it's full of Mormon people, and you know every Mormon person either knows how to sing or play the piano. You know
that is true.
You know, and like you're just kind of like a weirdly trained musical people. You know, like for people that like don't like music, it seems at all. You know. They, all make their kids take piano and violin lessons and singing lessons and sing in the choir and everything like that. And
as long as they can be played in church.
I took 5 years of violin lessons, so I fit into
I did the viola.
I did the
viola,
yeah. I have a theory about that, actually.
Really?
Yeah. So outside of Utah, music is religion, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Music is a form of religion. And I think because Mormonism is like, this is the one true church, music is just entertainment.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you can learn the piano so you can play it in church.
Yeah.
You sing so you can sing in church.
Oh, yeah. You sing so you can sing to your contacts on your mission.
Yeah, or whatever it is.
Beautiful pipes that God gave you to make them pay 10% of their income every month to
music
some stinky
people.
old men.
It doesn't replace religion, though. So you have a lot of talented people.
Mm-hmm. Using that talent to be missionaries.
Yeah, but it isn't like the religion, whereas outside of Utah, I think music is a religion.
Yeah. And then, on the other side of that, you get a lot of people that move to Provo, and Provo is basically like if everybody's Mormon mission were successful, the whole world would be like Provo. It'd just be like a really boring place that shuts down. I mean, it's not boring. I like it. I've lived there.
I used to get so bored there.
Like,
oh my gosh,
I think I'm not bored there because like I just, like I'm we're just making stuff. We're making
you're
our
busy
own,
making
we're
things.
busy making our own entertainment, but like, I think for the rest of the town, like, unless you're into like, bowling or dry humping, like there's really not a lot for you.
It's true though.
The bowling alley was
boy.
pretty full last Sunday.
Yeah,
I took Stryker for the first time.
Yeah, there you go.
Took my son bowling.
And so you have this like hyper concentrated, like Provo is basically what like the whole Mormon missionary program wants the rest of the world to be, just like a town of nice, clean cut young men and virginal daughters of God that, don't curse or spit or swear or drink coffee. And, like that's so boring. And then you get there and you it's like seeing how the sausage is made. Like that was my experience. Like I didn't grow up in Utah. I grew up in the diaspora. I grew up in Texas, and so being Mormon was really different because like it's the gold buckle of the Bible Belt down there. I got uninvited to birthday parties when I was a kid for being LDS, and so like you kind of have this like whole identity wrapped up around it, because like, it's just who you are and that's how everyone's reacting to you. And then like I get up to Provo, at least my experience was just kind of like, these people are fucking terrible. And this isn't the Jesus that like I was trying to ram down people's throats on my mission. This is a completely different Jesus. And I don't like this Jesus. And you see, like I said, how the sausage is made. And, for the rest of the world, like Drew was saying, music is a religion. And, like you can't take a thing and just like dismiss it from your life and just end up with this vacuum. It's why Kojak, was, eating the lollipops, because he was trying to quit cigarettes on TV, the TV detective. So he's eating the little dumb lollipops because he was trying to quit cigarettes, you have to fill that with something. And I think for a lot of people down in Utah that are either disenchanted or becoming disenchanted, or maybe they're disenchanted with like the culture of Mormonism down there, if not the religion itself. Like I think, you have these people that are all trained to sing and play the piano and play musical instruments. And then all of a sudden, like God's not real or is not what you thought it was. And they have to replace that religious fervor that was taking up their entire lives with something else,
Sure.
And what better thing to fill that void with than with music of your own creation, because like you're in control of it, especially because Mormonism is a religion that relies on controlling people. Like they don't want people to have beards at BYU, they don't want people to have hair past their ear, the top of their ear at BYU if you're a man. Like you can't have like funky colored hair or anything like that. These are college students. These
Sure.
are 18-year-old this is the time when you should be dyeing your hair and getting weird and doing like doing crazy stuff. And like everyone has to go to bed at 12 o'clock because that's when the Holy Ghost goes to bed. It's a religion of control. And so what better way to fill that vacuum than with something where you go like, well, this is of my making. This is of my control. This is of my doing. I can do whatever I want with it. I can say whatever I want with it. It can be whatever I want. And I think that a lot of great music in Provo comes out of that sentiment, whether people want to admit it or not.
Absolutely.
That is a really good theory.
I want to open it up for a second.
I like that theory.
Because we're kind of coming to the end of this part of the recording. Ryan, one of our Patreon supporters, is here. I want to see if he has any questions from listening to this conversation to ask either Drew or JR. Here, hang tight 1 second. Let me take this microphone out. I'm just going to hold it like this. Oh, is that getting feedback? Do you have any questions?
I almost didn't want you to stop your roll.
No, it's okay.
Right?
Don't worry about it.
No, that was awesome because I was actually writing a couple of notes about how, I'm a huge music nut. I do it on my own. I have my own little pocket band that no one knows about or gives a crap about. I've been really identifying with the freedom of what you've been saying and when the writing landscape is open. But I thought it was really neat how you're saying like filling that vacuum with of religious energy. I've been half in, half out. I was raised, I call it like Shiite Mormon. It was like 6 a.m. scriptures or you're grounded.
Oh, man.
I remember saying damn once when I was young, like maybe third grade, and getting like
Tabasco sauce on your tongue.
Oh yeah,
That's what happened to me.
It was a tight ship, that was drowning us, and the real triggers for me later, not that we need a confessional right now, was just realizing that I spent the majority of my time during the day feeling like shit, and I'm 15, like
hating yourself.
I got all these talents, I got gifts,
Yeah.
I mean, we're singing like freaking Von Traps, you know.
Yeah.
We were raised, my dad's in the choir. Like,
Oh,
it
yeah.
was like, you're flat, Jimmy, you're flat. Like, no, I'm going to save it, you know, from what was it? Step Brothers?
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude. Anyways, it was like that. It was awesome. But, you know, anyway, I loved what you were saying. It was totally resonating with me. So I wanted you to keep rolling on that. And also maybe expand, both of you, on your individual musical favorite gifts. Like, what's your secret weapon? You know, like, I don't know what you play
I'm
or
primarily
what you love to do, you know, lyrically or whatever.
I'm primarily a vocalist and a lyricist, although I play, you know, guitar and drums and bass. You just kind of pick up stuff because you're just jamming with people all the time and you're dicking around. Probably for me, my secret weapon is these big ass lungs here, which are asthmatic as hell and just riddled with weed smoke, but can still like yell very, very, very loudly, and occasionally do it in a musical, nice, sonorous way.
Yeah, you've pretty good projection. I'm impressed.
I'm trying to, you know, be good on my microphone control game because I know that, yeah, you can't get too close.
I don't know if I have a secret weapon. For me, music is always just about like making a song. So I started a band in 2002 with some friends, and I didn't play anything. And I just said, hey, we should start a band. I wrote some words, and you play guitar over there. So let's put those chords together, and we'll start a band. And for me, starting a band was all about just let's write songs. And
Drew is an excellent writer. I will out him, and I will say that I feel like his secret weapon is his insightful and very personal but very relatable writing.
thank you.
You're welcome.
But for me, no instrument is really like, I don't sit and practice any instruments, which probably comes across in the recordings, but I just use all the instruments to write a song, essentially. Like, I picked up a guitar so I could like map out, these are the chords and this is the song. And I mean, after like 15 years, you get better. But for me, it's all been about songwriting. I did want to say earlier, if it isn't too much time, but for me, a really key point in songwriting was at a certain point, I was writing songs that like were, how do you describe it? Like lyrical, I don't want to say masterpieces, but lyrically like labyrinthian.
Yeah, that's a word.
Labyrinthian, like a labyrinth. I would spend like a month on the lyrics. They were so like detailed and specific, and just like this word puzzle, like just, I was so proud of them and so beautiful. And then I'd write a song that would be like something I like could have just, I wrote it down as fast as I could. I threw 2 chords into it, and I'm like, all right, it's a song. It's 2 chords, and I just wrote all the words as fast as I could. And I would have the same reaction to both songs. So for me, I think a lot of why with the Funny Uncles and with like this just throwing songs out, it stems from that whole like past experience of like, oh, well, I spent like a month on this song and everyone appreciates it as much as this one song I wrote in like 30 minutes.
We have another project that we try to do. We weren't successful last year, but we try to do every year the day after Christmas. Mm-hmm. And it's very much in that same spirit. It's a vaguely black metalish, pagan, punkish kind of thing called Blood Eagle. And the whole thing is designed to basically just be like written and recorded in a day. We have one album that you can listen to on Spotify, actually. Blood Eagle, Bloody Goal is the name of the title, as in a bloody seagull.
Yeah.
But it's very much in that, it's very much in that same spirit, which like I love about working with Drew, because you can get way too much in your own head, recording wise. Like, is this good enough? Is this perfect enough? How's this song? Is this the thing that I want it to be? And I love working with Drew because like we'll do a take and he'll just be like, well, that feels good. Did you feel good about that? And like, I'm just like, yeah, I guess I did. Well, you can do another one if you want. I'm like, no, that's okay. And then we just move on. We just move on to the next thing.
I'm actually I know Ryan might have a few more questions. I don't know if you do or not, but we're gonna end this up really quick right now.
Do it.
And then we're gonna open it up to record a little Patreon only episode if you have some more questions, Ryan. Yeah. But I want to quickly, why don't each of you run down the list? I know, mention your barbershop again, Drew, and then any websites, links, promote anything, plug anything, any websites.
I don't want to promote anything. I don't care.
You don't care? Okay, fair enough.
All right.
Well, you mentioned your barbershop at the beginning, so I'm going to put that website and all that stuff.
I'll send you links
on the links for that. You probably have Facebook and all that.
I'll send you a bunch of links. But
anything you want to mention over there?
I'll be the opposite of you can check out my artwork on my Tumblr, which is doghands DAWGHANDS .tumblr.com. It's where I do all my art stuff. That's also my Instagram handle where I promote a lot of art stuff that I draw. And you can also check out, I've been shooting a lot of low budget videos for local yokels in Utah as of late and within the last year. And you can go on my YouTube channel, which is just Beast Mansion. You can just search that and look at some dumb, weird film stuff. You can even see Drew in one of them. And if you find Drew and you can identify him, then I will give you a prize, which is a internet thumbs up from here and is not actually a prize at all. I will just.
I was going to go look.
I'm going to find Drew.
I'm just going to be. I'll just be like, yep, that is totally Drew in that one shot there.
Good job.
Is it the pouring?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Cool.
Anything else you want to mention, Chrissy, before we wrap this part of the episode up?
Oh, no.
All right. Hey, thanks again, guys, for coming on I Am Salt Lake.
Thanks for having us.
I'll put all the links with the show notes for this episode.
Totally.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Many thanks to John-Ross Boyce and Drew Danburry for coming on this episode. Go to iamsaltlake.com/249. It's for episode 249. There's going to be all the links up there. I tracked down all the links for Drew's barbershop. I know he didn't want to mention them when we were chatting, but
I know, but go support him.
I want to give the guy some promotion.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? This is a great local barbershop. I know it's in Provo, but I know we have a lot of Utah County listeners. Go down there and get a haircut. If I was closer, I'd probably let him tackle this mane of mine.
You have so much hair.
Oh my gosh. I pity any barber that has tried to attempt a haircut with me. You know, they pull the thinning shears out. They're like, oh my, do you want this thinned out? When I was younger, I hated it.
Really?
I hated my thick hair.
Oh, you hated your thick hair.
Yeah, well, yeah, I hated because it's so difficult.
Thick hair is really difficult, especially for guys.
To do, but as I'm older, creeping up on my 39th birthday, Chrissy, I'm
only getting hotter.
I'm so grateful. No disrespect to the bald men out there, but I am glad I have a luscious, thick head of hair.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere.
But go check out all the links. Let them know you heard them on the podcast. It means a lot to me when I find out, people are out sharing it and talking about it. And
let's get some local businesses some real support too. You know?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, we do these interviews, these conversations, and it's nice to get feedback. And I'm sure they would love to hear it as well.
Totally.
And also, I've never really mentioned this before, Chrissy, but we post these on our social medias and we post it on the I Am Salt Lake fan page. Leave a comment. Of your thoughts right there on the Facebook page. Say,
please do. Let's start a conversation, you guys.
Exactly. A lot of times this becomes one-sided. Chrissy and I were talking into the microphones.
But you listeners might have some completely different perspective or some insight that we would love to hear.
Yeah. Well, I know we talk music a lot in this, and I know
we do.
We might kind of strike a little nerve with some of the musicians. Maybe not a nerve, but similar thoughts or ideas. And so we'd love to know your thoughts there. Leave a comment on our Facebook page on this episode. But this last Thursday, we couldn't get away from recording this podcast without mentioning Lizzie's.
Yes, because it was so yummy.
So Derek and Moody, fans of the podcast, they both have individually been on the podcast. I love these guys. Big supporters of everything they do. They invited us to a kind of a little VIP dinner.
Yeah, it was like a media pre-opening.
Yeah, and so they of course I was going to go. I wasn't going to pass up this opportunity to A, support them, and B, try some of their food.
Yes, which I am super glad that we didn't skip out.
Oh my gosh, it was so delicious. I didn't get to try a whole lot of the food because of my dietary restrictions. But the food I did. But you did. The food I did try, it was
so good.
Oh my gosh.
Moody's mom came in
Yeah, I guess she flew
from Lebanon.
here
Yeah.
to teach and train all of their cooks and chefs to be authentic.
Do you know what I loved about it so much when they were talking about it? Is that they actually, all of their chefs they hired are refugees from other countries.
Great story.
And it's such a great story because they're supporting those people who have fled here to be safe and start a new life. And then it's authentic cuisine they're learning to cook.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really great, heartwarming story, and the food is so good.
And the atmosphere is beautiful.
The atmosphere is so beautiful.
And if you go there, go into the bathrooms.
Yeah, I know.
That's what they told us. They said, even if you don't have to use the bathroom, go into the bathroom, check it out. I know we posted a few pictures on our Facebook pages and stuff like that. So they should be opening. I think they're opening up Thursday this week. So depending on when you're listening to this, go support them. They're right over there in the 9th and 9th. Well, the lower 9th. It's like Jefferson Street. I should put the links. We'll look up the address. Check it out, Laziz. Big shout out, Derek and Moody. You guys are great.
So great. If you have a date that you really want to impress, take them to Laziz.
Hey, there's an idea.
Yep.
There is an idea. I want to get real here, though, Chrissy.
Get real.
I don't do this too often. Well, I've actually never done something like this on the podcast. And one thing I'm trying to do more and more with these podcasts is kind of let the listener, let you, whoever's listening right now, kind of a little bit into our life. Mm-hmm. You know, I've been thinking about this and kind of how the direction I should take this, and is it something that I should bring up on the podcast? And really, I mean, that's what this is all about, is over the last 4 years of doing I Am Salt Lake, I've wanted to let you into my life, and then bringing you on the show, Chrissy. But a lot of people don't know about my day job. I don't talk about it too much, partially because I hate to say it, but I'm not proud of it. I'm not proud of my day job. Yeah, I go to work and I get a paycheck and it pays the bills. I mean, obviously, I Am Salt Lake doesn't pay the bills. But I sell granite slabs by day. I'm in sales and whatnot with that. But it's time to get out of that job.
Yeah.
And it's time to pursue more things that I'm into.
More relevant.
Jobs. You know, I've been there for over 10 years. And a lot of it is really just because it's a job I know. You know, I went through a lot of tough times over the last few years. I can go there and I could pretty much do everything with my eyes closed. And I'm at a point where I need to move on.
Yeah.
And it's tough because of that job being on my resume for the last 10 years, where it's like you would think I would want to stay in that industry.
Right. It's rare for people to stay somewhere for 10 years nowadays.
And so a lot of people think, oh, I love it. They think, oh, Chris must love his job because he's there. And it's like, well, no, not really. It's just because I've been there.
Right.
For
You're
10
just
years.
a solid dude.
Anyway, this is what I'm going to ask of the listeners. And I'm not asking for any sorts of handouts, and I'm not asking for, but I want to pursue more of my passions, whether it's podcasting, social media, some sort of networking, some sort of, not really sure what word I'm looking for. My mind is blank right now. But if anybody listening, if say you need help with a podcast, I am offering one-on-one podcast consulting, podcast teaching. I want to teach people how to do a podcast. I know a lot of times people have no idea where to start.
Oh, yeah.
They don't know where to begin. And I think it would be easier to do it one-on-one. I don't know. Tell me your thoughts, whoever, if you have any ideas, if you're listening. But if you need any help with that, if you need any help, maybe your business wants to do a podcast, something completely different, I'd be more than happy to produce it. I'd be more than happy to advertise for it. I don't know. I'm just trying to kind of pursue some different adventure or different ventures, with
adventurous ventures.
Tell me about it. Or if you need help running your social media, I can run your Facebook, your Twitter accounts, your Instagram accounts, any of that. So reach out to me. Chris at iamsaltlake.com is my email. If you have any ideas, I'm starting to put my feelers out there in different jobs.
Yeah.
And stuff. So I didn't mean to get all, sad and depressed. I don't know.
That's not sad and depressing at all.
Sad
you're
and
an
depressing?
incredibly talented person, and people know it. They just don't know that you're interested in
something
using
else.
it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I think, and it's hard because I don't know. Do you want your job to know that you're out looking for other work? I don't know.
Maybe. Depends.
I think jobs should know that, and it's like you want to be somewhere where you feel valued.
You do. That's a huge, and I don't know if that's more of just this age, this time that we live in, but you need to feel a sense of accomplishment in your job.
And so I would rather, me personally, I do better working for myself. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to lie.
You're an entrepreneur.
I'm an entrepreneur. And so that's kind of why I'd like to venture something with podcasting. I'd like to do something maybe helping people with social media, something like that. And I think that there might be some people out there that can do it. And so you got to put yourself out there.
It's a lot of work. People who are actually running businesses don't have enough time to do all that.
Exactly. So reach out. I want to talk about our Patreon supporters, though.
Yes.
We're calling
Thank
them
you guys.
I Am Salt Lake Plus. This is kind of a plus feature. This is a great way to support the podcast, keep it running,
And you get a little something back.
Exactly. It's like an ongoing Kickstarter. We have some new Patreon supporters. We actually had them over the last few weeks, but with last week's episode with the domestic violence live show, we didn't really talk too much on that episode.
Right.
So I want to give a big shout out to Nikki Line. She's over in New Zealand. And then Jeff P.A. I don't know if I pronounced his name. Sorry, Jeff, if you're listening. Okay.
He sounds French.
This is the funniest thing. Neither one of them even live in Utah. Neither one of them even
Where
live in
does Jeff live?
Jeff lives in Michigan.
Wow.
He does
Thanks,
Podcast
Jeff. He's
Fiend.
close to my home.
Yeah. He does Podcast Fiend. And these are two supporters of the podcast that don't even live in Salt Lake. Come on, Salt Lake City.
Come on, guys.
Step it up.
We're going to start a running toll now. Utah supporters and non-Utah supporters. See who wins.
We also want to thank our other Patreon supporters, Brian Young, Rob Knight, Scott Nompf, and Ryan Prince. They've been Patreon supporters for a minute. Just kind of wanted to give a shout out to them as well. Go to iamsaltlake.com/supporter. That will forward you to our Patreon page where you can even kick on over $1. Mm-hmm. It's
$1 is
it's
a
a
big
great
deal.
way, and it you have no idea what it does to my soul when I go, I got another believer.
If we could do 50 cents, you could do 50 cents, but you can't. So give us $1.
Anyway. I want to talk about the live show coming up.
Yes.
Chrissy, this is really important that you all come out to this. It would mean a lot to me.
Me.
It would mean a lot to you, Chrissy.
Absolutely.
I know you've done some live shows, Chrissy, but you have not done a true I Am Salt Lake live, in my opinion.
Oh, no, I have
until
not.
after Saturday. Who's going to be on the show, Chrissy? I'll let you tell a little bit.
I'm so excited. Jimmy Martin and Kat Martin, whose house we were just at for a fun birthday party. Super fun people. Aaron Orlovitz, awesome comedian, and Rich Wilson, amazing, awesome comedian, and super talented guy all around. It's just going to be fun. These are 4 people with epic personalities.
Let me tell a little bit about it, because I was actually just talking with Jonathan over at Distillery 36, which they're sponsoring the show. Many thanks to Distillery 36. A lot of people still aren't familiar on how we do these live podcasts.
Yeah.
And, because he was asking me, he's like, is this going to take like 4 hours? Because typically, in a podcast episode, we chat with one person. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people that don't come to that haven't been to these type of live shows don't really know how we do it.
Oh, like they think we're doing 4 separate interviews?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
And so the easiest explanation that I can say is imagine like a Dave Letterman late night TV show where you bring each person out and we kind of chat with them for a few minutes, maybe 10 to 15 minutes each. And then we kind of then they're all out there and it's just a fun, open discussion with everybody. We open it up to audience questions at the end. So if you have any questions for me, Chrissy, or any of the people on the show, you can
come ask
us. We're also going to be doing a pretty big giveaway, in my opinion. Not as massive as I would have hoped, but we got a lot of great local businesses here in the area that have donated T-shirts and gift cards. I mean, I'm talking like a $50 gift card we're going to be giving away.
Yes. I'm kind of jealous that we can't win the stuff, but that's cool. You guys can win it.
And all you have to do is come to the show. You'll get a ticket for the raffle. We'll do it at the end. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to be doing it yet, but all you have to do is come to the show. The show's free.
You can just have a good time, enjoy a free show, and get free stuff.
The podcast recording is going to start about 9 o'clock. Come early. I know I'm going to try to get there really early.
Yeah.
Have a few drinks.
Loosen up.
Have some Brigham Rum from Distillery 36. And hang out for the show. Get some pictures. I know we're going to have the I Am Salt Lake banner there.
Yeah.
To take pictures with. And come and hang out.
Just be our friend
for the evening. So all the information on that is on our social medias as well. Saturday, November 5th at the Hideout Pub and Grub. I'm going to let you run down the contact information though, Chrissy, unless you want to mention anything more on this episode.
Well, I'd like to say thank you, Grammy, for listening to our podcast.
Oh, that's right. Your grandma's listening.
My Grammy listens to every episode.
That's right.
She's the best.
That's right. You told me that a few weeks ago. And every night before she goes to bed.
Every night while she's going to bed.
Why she's going to bed?
My parents even bought her new headphones so that she could listen, like Bose headphones.
Seriously?
Yeah, so that she could listen to us.
That's really cool.
Yeah, she's the best. Okay, so thanks, Grammy. If you guys want to follow us or get a hold of us, you can visit us on iamsaltlake.com. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat, all at I Am Salt Lake.
And then Chrissy's.
And then mine.
You got your Twitter.
At Chrissy Tweets is my Twitter, and Chrissy Shelley on Facebook. Pretty much wherever, just find us. You can figure it out. You're big kids.
We have a mailing address though.
We do.
We haven't gotten anything in it though, and I'm going to challenge you to be the first person to send us something.
If you send us something, I will write you a handwritten letter back.
Oh,
snap.
You just heard. Anyways, give that mailing.
Our mailing address is 2225 South, 500 East, Suite 16 in Salt Lake City, Utah, 84106. Yep.
And we have a voicemail and text line that you can call up, text us, 385-202-5926. Don't really get very many calls on that either.
No, but come on, hit us up, guys.
Show us some love.
Well, thanks for checking out the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for listening. Have a great week. Get out, enjoy our beautiful city, support local, love the city you live in.
Good night, Grammy.
Yeah, have a great week, guys.